Hello everyone. Thanks very much for joining me for this Global Azure session where we are going to see how you can leverage Azure Security Center to protect your containers and Kubernetes cluster. My name is Dave Rendon and I'm a Microsoft MVP with expertise in Azure and currently serve as a solutions architect at Kemp. On today's session, you will learn how to utilize Azure Security Center to protect your applications running on containers or Kubernetes cluster. First of all, let's understand the security challenges for cloud-native applications. Given the rapid pace of the cloud, we need to make sure that the services people are using and creating are up to your security standards. Also, we have to ensure that our public workloads that are internet-facing follow some best security practices. And last but not least, we must have the necessary background and experience to make sure our environments are protected. However, we're seeing a huge gap on the security skills needed. That said, Azure Security Center is a unified infrastructure security management system that will provide you advanced threat protection across your hybrid workloads, whether they are in Azure or not, as well as on-premises. This means that it will help you identify and perform the hardening tasks recommended as security best practices and implement them across your machines, data services, and applications. This also includes managing and enforcing security policies and making sure that your Azure VMs and also non-Azure servers, and including PaaS services, are compliant. Also, Security Center provides native integration with Azure Policy, for instance, and Azure Monitor Logs, among other Microsoft security solutions, such as Cloud App Security and Windows Defender Advanced Threat Protection. Azure VMs are auto-provisioned in Security Center. All the events collected from the agents and from Azure are correlated in the Security Analytics engine to provide you recommendations that you should follow to make sure your workloads are secure, and you will be able to review some security alerts. Security Center also provides a native solution to protect your containers, mainly on three main pillars: vulnerability management, hardening of the containers environment, and runtime protection. So with regards to vulnerability management, when a new image is pushed, Security Center will then scan this image and will use a scanner from this third-party vendor Qualys. So when issues are found, you will get a notification through the Security Center dashboard. That said, for every vulnerability, Security Center will provide action items, recommendations, along with a severity classification and guidance on how to remediate this specific issue. So in the case that the image is healthy, Security Center will also mark it as such. Now, talking about the environment hardening, Security Center identifies those containers that are hosted on IaaS Linux VMs or other Linux machines running Docker containers. Then Security Center continuously performs an assessment of the configuration of these containers and compares them with the Center of Internet Security or CIS Docker benchmark. So you will be notified if your containers don't satisfy any of the controls. Now, really, when Azure when Azure Security Center scans an image, first of all, the image is pulled from the registry and then is run. Now, when Azure Security Center scans an image, this image is first pulled from the registry. It's then run in an isolated sandbox with a Qualys scanner, and Security Center then filters and classifies all the findings from this scanner. Basically, image scans are triggered on every single push. Now let's see the benefits of using the Azure Container Registry integration. As you know, ACR or Azure Container Registry is a managed private Docker registry service that basically stores and manages your container images for Azure deployments in a central repository. So we can try to compare it with the Docker Hub, which is actually the ACR is based on the open source Docker registry. This integration brings deeper visibility into the vulnerabilities of the images in your registries. Now you can enable or disable the bundle at the subscription level to cover all the registries in a subscription. So whenever an image is pushed to your registry, Security Center automatically scans that specific image. And to trigger the scan of an image, just push it to your repository. And once the scan completes, all the findings are available in Security Center recommendations. Similar to the Azure Container Registry integration, you can also review the security recommendations from your Azure Kubernetes cluster. Security Center identifies your AKS resources and categorizes them from clusters to individual VMs. So you can then view all the security recommendations per resource. Security Center provides you also the threats and malicious activity detected at the host and AKS cluster level. So you will be able to see some raw security events, including the network data and the process creation. And you will also be able to review the Kubernetes audit log. So now let's jump into a quick demo. Now let's go to the Azure portal and we will go to our Security Center. First of all, in order to get the container capabilities on top of the Security Center, first of all, I'll recommend you to enable the standard tier to make use of the following features. So the main pillars of the Security Center integration are policy and compliance, resource security hygiene, and threat protection. For the sake of this demonstration, we will go to the resource security hygiene and click on compute and applications. On this specific tab, you will be able to see an overview of the recommendations by Security Center for your resources. So let's go over the containers tab, and in this specific containers tab you will be able to see a list of your current container instances or Azure Container Registries and the Kubernetes clusters as well. So I previously created a couple of Azure Container Registries, such as the Global Azure and the Contoso. So let's go and review the Global Azure Container Registry. So in this container registry, on the repositories, you will be able to see all the images available to deploy to a web application for containers or to an Azure Container instance. In this case, if you select any of these images and then go over the tag options, you will be able to see the option to run this instance or deploy to a web application. So as I mentioned earlier, when we push an image to the Azure Container Registry, in this case the Global Azure Container Registry, Security Center will perform the scan behind the scenes. So let's go to our PowerShell on our local machine, and I'm going to apply a tag to a local container that I have on this local machine. Let's call this WordPress 6. Once you apply the tag to the container, now we will push it to the Azure Container Registry. This should take just a couple of seconds, and we will be able to see this new image reflected on our Global Azure Container Registry. So now let's go back to the Azure portal under repositories, and I have the new image available in the container registry. So again, I'm going just to run this instance as an Azure container instance. I'm going to select this WP6 name. Then I'm going to utilize the Linux as the OS type and select the number of cores 2 and assign a bit more of memory, and then click OK. Now let's go back to Security Center. Once again, let's go to Compute and Apps, and let's go to the Containers tab. Now I will go into this global Azure Container Registry, and I will be able to see the total recommendations that Security Center has provided. I will be able to review the resource name, the resource group, and the subscription as well, and the recommendation list for these resources. So I'm seeing a recommendation, and basically Azure Security Center perform the scan process for all the repositories that are within this Azure Container Registry. So what I will do now is go to the security checks, and I'll be able to see the scanned images. So if I click on over these details, I will be able to see the description of this vulnerability and some general information related to it. I will also be able to check on the affected resources, and I will be able to also get more information from this specific vulnerability. So with that in mind, we can potentially mitigate some vulnerabilities on the container itself. And as you can see, the latest image, it's been in the process of being scanned. So let's wait for a couple of minutes to for the process to complete. So just to quickly review that the container instance is running, I'm going to go to the Azure container instance. So I'm going to go to the Azure container instances, and here's my latest image. So if I go to the public IP address, okay, so the container is up and running. Okay. Now let's go back to the Security Center dashboard. So let's go over the Security Center, Compute and Applications, go over the Containers tab, and select the Global Azure Container Registry. So now I can go over the security check again, and I'll be able to see that the most recent image that I pushed has been scanned. Now let's go over some healthy nodes. I have another container registry here. So this is basically a Node.js application, and you can see that on the past assessments, I can see that this specific container instance is healthy. There is a similar approach for the Kubernetes cluster. So in this case, if I go to the Kubernetes cluster, I'll be able to see the total recommendations as well as the recommendations summary. And I'll also be able to see the detail of these recommendations. So for instance, in this case, it says that the authorized IP ranges should be defined on the Kubernetes service. So as I mentioned earlier, sometimes you can basically take a remediation step automatically from Security Center, or if there's no way to automate the task, you need to take the action manually. So this specific button will redirect you to the service to perform the changes needed on the configuration. So similar, the second recommendation is to define some pod security policies on the Kubernetes services. So again, if you want to take any specific action, you just click in here, take action, and this will redirect you to the Kubernetes service. Now, in the case that you previously deployed your container as a web application for containers, you will be able to see those specific resources on the App Services tab. So in this case, I have previously deployed a specific image from the Global Azure Container Registry as a web application for containers. This is the specific instance for the web app. If I just quickly show you the configuration of this application. So on the app service, under the settings options, I will go to the container settings. And as you can see, this specific app service is running one of the images that I have on the Azure Container Registry on the Global Azure. And this is the configuration that I'm running. Now let's go back to the Security Center, Compute and Apps, and I select the App Services. So in this case, Security Center is showing me that there are already 3 past assessments. So let's go over the course recommendation. So this is showing me that course shouldn't allow every resource to access to your app service. So let's go over this quick fix. And in here, different from the previous recommendations, in here you can just remediate the issue directly from Security Center or trigger a logic app. So in this case, I'm going to just select remediate. You can perform in here the configuration needed and select resource and then remediate the resource. So I hope you find this integration useful for your resources. Thank you for joining the Global Azure virtual event.